Salutations everyone, this is Razor bringing you guys in their Overwatch video, where today we're going to be talking about the new map Havana. And it's not a map that it seems like a lot of people had some practice with when it was just out in arcade and quick play, because playing in comp, every time I get it, pretty much everyone on my team is like, oh, I've never played this, or they they don't like it or something. So here's some Widowmaker gameplay, by the way. I know I usually post healer or tank because that's just what I have to fill on, but it was in the arcade, and Widow's really good on this map, so I gave her a go. So my apologies that it's not the greatest Widow gameplay ever. I think it's rather decent. Typically, you don't see very many good Widowmakers out there, and if I'm gonna pick Widowmaker, I'm just I'm gonna perform rather well with her comparatively to what the rest of the team, or at the very least other people in my position, will be doing. So regardless, we're gonna be on defense here, and then I'll show you a Zenyatta attack. So just to talk about the map a bit, it's of course a full payload, as you remember from the Archives mission, and this first stretch here, this first street, is definitely can be a long, hard-fought battle, especially if the enemy team, if you're attacking and they're defending, has a Widow in the back and tanks that are taking space and doing tank things as they should. Sometimes you just see Widows not have really any success, even if like the enemy comp is really bad against Widow, or the Widow is good. A lot of the times it has to do with them just getting all that aggro and having someone on the enemy team to do something about it. But when tanks are playing the objective and get in their face, that's when Widows can thrive. That's what they're supposed to do. Widows, I know everyone loves complaining about Widows not being on the objective, but if I have a Widow on my team, I don't want her being on the objective. I want her in the back slaying up a storm. So that's what I try to do here. So that first stretch of road is definitely can be quite the uphill I mean, it is literally uphill, but of course you have those long sight lines for Pharahs and for Widows and Ashes to wreak havoc. You also have the bar on the right side where your flankers can go, or sometimes entire teams will go through that way. Wrecking balls are, I think, really good on that first point, both for attacking and defending, actually, because he can kind of just hide behind that little cantina area. And here I was just way too focused on the Pharah. I'm not ultra experienced at Widowmaker. You guys know I never get to play DPS, so I'm not gonna have the best habits in the world or the greatest aim. But hey, look, I killed the ulting Moira, so you can't say I'm hot garbage. So yeah, the first uphill battle, it's a hard fight, but usually once you've won one fight, then the enemy team's not really gonna have time to build the momentum to pull a stop right at the end there. But it definitely can happen. But this is where most of the standstill tends to happen. Here I am asserting my dominance over that the Widow, making sure the McCree doesn't get another flank on me, because that's that's what McCree's try to do sometimes, and give him a little Widow's kiss there to finish him off after a couple of headshots. And what with this high ground and all, there's definitely one of the great things about this map, I think, is that so many different strategies can work in a competitive environment. Either attacking really with any tanks if you want to go death ball, or triple tank, or dive, or just go wrecking ball, or Orisa hog, bunker. Pretty much anything can work on both attack and defense, at least up to the second point here. Once we get to the third point, things get a little bit more iffy, because that's where a lot of stalling is going to happen. So we're gonna drop this second point, and basic teamwork issues going on here, but that's fine. I'm trying to gain the amount of space that I have privy to me, and here just more Widow inexperience. He jumped in. I thought with the mine I was gonna have enough damage to kill him, but I didn't. I should have hooked out. I could have, did not, and Torb is vomiting all over the point like a good boy. So obviously the middle area, it really depends on what your team comp is about what kind of strategy you want to roll with there. But it'll usually end up being a war for the high ground, And really just getting that payload around that second quarter is all you need to do. Once that has happened, you're pretty much good to go. It's this third point where whether you're attacking or defending is pretty much where it's always going to end up. And once again, great Widow sight lines. You're going to see a lot of Widows perched up right up here where you see me. But, you know, you can't just make camp there. There's other sight lines for you to take. And there's definitely a lot of ways for the enemy to surprise you and flank you. You got this Mei coming up, and I'm just going to give her the old what for, force into the ice block. That's not a fight that I want to take, so I'm going to piece on out of here, let my Venom Mine do the work, and try to get a cheeky little snipe, but with the Orisa barrier, nothing is going to be had in that arena. And with these long sight lines, it's really easy to catch people staggering their spawns coming out, as you can see here, because it's such a long sight line through either through where I'm looking at the end of this bridge. Team could be camped up right where I'm aiming behind a shield or something, shooting down at their spawn. Because unlike, you know, some points where there's going to be like a long corridor or a corner that you're going to have to turn, the enemy can like see right into where you're spawning from, and there really isn't much cover outside of that one little pillar area. And things can be difficult if you don't attack very well. And I know I lost, you know, I'm putting up a loss here, but I feel I did a pretty good job. I've had other Widow games where I won on here. Let me show you right now. Look, see, I can win as Widow. I'm not garbage. I just felt like, even though the stats were very similar in these two games, there's only like 1 kill difference. I thought the second one, even though it was a loss, was, I don't know, better gameplay, better Widow shit. So here I am on the attack, and we have a Wrecking Ball doing what they do, knocking people off of the top. That's what's so great about Wrecking Ball. He's kind of one of the best options as a tank right now, but I'll put that in a completely separate video. But he's really great here, especially either if enemies like to clump up on their defenses or if they like to spread out on the various high grounds. He has a great way of, you know, just finding the support in the back or knocking off the sniper up top, or, you know, of course, what he's best at, knocking, you know, bunkered up teams and spreading them apart, you know, knocking them off the high ground or shooting them up in the air for your DPS or other tank to finish off. So we get quite the easy first point here. And from the attacking perspective, I feel like you're going to have more success coming from the bar, but it really all comes down to where the opponent is fighting from. Some teams will fight all the way around the corner and won't even take that sight line because they still have a pretty decent sight line there by the theater area or whatever it is, that, you know, those buildings. And there definitely is a lot of high ground. They can even, you know, take Hanamura point A spots, Widow style, and just have her up top, where you take the payload past the first point and just camp up there. So there's definitely a lot of options the defending team can take, and it's all about, you know, making your adjustments to what they're trying to do and trying to find out where the crux of their team lies, whether it's them bunkering up or a sniper dealing damage, or, you know, some sort of flanker, harasser, or Wrecking Ball just being a real thorn in your side, because your shields are not going to last long on those opening streets, because there's really not going to be a ton of cover. So most people are going to go ahead and come through the bars, and hopefully once people see this map being played in Overwatch League, they'll start to take some notes about when and where you should be making your engagements, and with a variety of compositions. I know that seemed like an unnecessary trance because we already had the mines down, but I did not know that, and my team needed healing, so better to be safe than sorry, especially when fighting Scrub Lords, and they have a Widow who's just hot garbage, and Wrecking Ball is great at taking advantage of those. So the middle area is really going to be dictated about what your tanks are doing. I know that's usually going to be the case in any fight in any part of any map, but because of your enemy can really bunker up, there's a lot, people run a lot of Bastions and Torbjorns, especially on that second point. It can be quite frustrating, especially since there's different angles with that high ground that they can use. So I would definitely recommend dive unless they're really bunkered up with the Baptiste and your team doesn't have the best coordination, which is usually going to be the case. Then in that case, you know, maybe you're just going to have to rely on a flank or a Wrecking Ball to get one kill, and then you can snowball from there. Wrecking Ball is a little bit more self-sufficient when it comes to the dive and kill opportunities. And here we just had like a really good stagger. Obviously, you know, most teams in comp are not going to be grouping up as a team. They're just going to be throwing their shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. And this was a much better trance, I feel, keeping the team up and fighting on the point. These stalls can last a long time, especially with the number of Mays. And Wrecking Balls have a lot of spin to win strats, even on this map as well. And I think Reaper actually works really good on this map in all points, both on attack and defense, but that might just be because we're in a Reaper meta right now. And he just is kind of, he can destroy any team in the bottom 94% because of, they just keep buffing him, and he's just always been really good. And one of the few possible, you know, solo carry characters in this game through the bottom 94% of us. So Discord Orb definitely will help you taking out those campers out there, or the Wrecking Balls, which sometimes can seem to live forever. You know, their biggest enemies are going to be Discord Orbs and crowd control, mostly from Brigitte, since she has 2 different ways to stun and knock him away. So we're going to get the quick victory right there, as I only died the one time and was, I wouldn't say I was solo healing. We had a Baptiste, but I was doing most of the healing and had some pretty boss transcendence here toward the end to keep everybody topped off, so we weren't staggered coming into this stall fight. In which case, there can be a lot of stall fights here, and a lot of people love setting up Torb turrets, but Orisa is always going to be a good place here, and your Pharas and your long-range hit scans, like your soldiers, your ashes, and your widows, are just going to have a good bang old time. So this map is mostly about being wary of the sightlines and keeping your tanks alive, especially in that second part. It's the third part where shit can really hit the fan. It can be frustrating, but the enemy eventually is going to have to keep falling back to that castle. Now, that might be where they are strongest, but that is when the ultimates will be the deciding factor in that fight and will determine the winner and the loser on that final point. Kind of like at the end of Route 66, it's going to be all about the ultimates. So let me know what you guys think about the map. I think it's a kind of nice map. I really like it. It's nice to have ones that has really long sightlines and that a lot of different compositions can utilize. And this is one of those maps, and everyone loves a full payload, right? No 2CP, no problems.